Welcome back to another Genshin Interact video. Let us know down in the comments if this guide was helpful or if you have any other tips or questions about WRIOTHESLEY and how to build him. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future content. If you do want to connect with us more, we do have a Discord that you can find on our main channel or in the description below. Thank you for watching, now on to the video.
Rolling in with his first banner and bringing the idea of a cryo catalyst to reality, WRIOTHESLEY is now here. He has a relatively simple kit, so let's dive in. First, we're looking into his talents and their leveling priority. Your first talent to level should be his normal attack talent. One thing to keep in mind is that his normal attacks are called repelling fists and his charge attacks are called vaulting fists. Besides that, there is nothing super special about his normal attack talent besides the fact that all of his hits will be cryo. WRIOTHESLEY will do most of his damage through his normal attacks with his skill buffing them. Speaking of his skill should be next in the leveling priority. Rushing forward, WRIOTHESLEY enters the chilling penalty state when using his skill. This state increases WRIOTHESLEY's interruption resistance, and when his HP is above 50%, this state enhances his normal attacks. But with benefits comes costs. Each time he hits an enemy with one of these attacks, he will lose a certain amount of HP. The state does clear when he leaves the field. Finally, WRIOTHESLEY's burst talent. WRIOTHESLEY unleashes a powerful cryo-infused punch that causes multiple extra instances of AoE cryo damage to occur after the main first hit. These multiple instances are called Icicle Impact. After Icicle Impact occurs, a surging blade will descend upon the opponent's position, dealing Uxia-aligned cryo damage. Since his skill and normal attacks are your main concern with little emphasis on his burst, our recommended talent levels you should strive for on him are level 8 normal attack talent, level 8 skill talent, and level 6 burst talent. If you are going to make WRIOTHESLEY level 90, heavily consider going to level 9 or crowning your normal attack and skill talent, and getting your burst to level 8.
Looking beyond talents, we now move over to WRIOTHESLEY's passives. His first passive talent states that when WRIOTHESLEY's HP is less than 60%, he will obtain a Gracious Rebuke. The next charge attack will be enhanced to become Rebuke Vaulting Fist. It will not consume stamina, but it will deal 50% increased damage. And after hitting an enemy, he will restore 30% of his max HP. You can gain a Gracious Rebuke this way once every 5 seconds. His second passive talent states that when WRIOTHESLEY's current HP increases or decreases, if he is in the Chilling Penalty state, Chilling Penalty will gain 1 stack of Prosecution Edict. Each stack will increase WRIOTHESLEY's attack by 6% and has a max of 5 stacks. After passives, we need to talk about artifact sets for WRIOTHESLEY. Your best set is probably going to be a 4-piece Marechaussee Hunter set. The 2-piece set bonus gives a 15% normal and charge attack damage increase. The 4-piece set bonus states that when current HP of the wearer of the set increases or decreases, crit rate will be increased by 12% for 5 seconds with a max of 3 stacks. The 2-piece is nice since his main way of damage is his normal attacks, but look at the 4-piece set bonus. A max of 36% crit rate after losing HP 3 times through 3 normal attacks, and then also add the standard 5% crit rate most characters start with. If you have 2 cryo characters on your team and the enemy is affected by cryo, then add another 15% crit rate. You're looking at WRIOTHESLEY with 56% crit rate with just buffs and no artifact stats. Like some other Fontaine characters, these new sets are very nice and useful, but there are some other sets that could be of some use. There could be a case made for the Blizzard Strayer set, as it does increase cryo damage bonus with its 2-piece, and the 4-piece set bonus increases crit rate by 20% if an enemy is affected by cryo, and an additional 20% crit rate if the enemy is frozen. The difference is mainly in the 2-piece set bonuses between these 2 artifact sets. One increases normal and charge attack damage, and the other increases cryo damage bonus. If you are using WRIOTHESLEY on a freeze team, it is probably best to put him on a 4-piece Blizzard set since it does give him 40% crit rate on frozen enemies. But Marechaussee is a bit more versatile since it gives 36% crit rate based on WRIOTHESLEY's kit rather than a reaction mechanic. This will allow WRIOTHESLEY to be more flexible and play in freeze teams, melt teams, and more. If you're without any 4-piece sets, you could use Blizzard Strayer's 2-piece set and combine it with any 2-piece attack percent sets. Since WRIOTHESLEY is a cryo catalyst and has a lot of cryo application, you could throw in a 2-piece Elemental Mastery set and combine it with a previous 2-piece set. Do just remember that his best set seems to be the 4-piece Marechaussee Hunter set. Going quickly into artifact main stats and substats, our recommended way of building him is to get an attack percent Sands, a cryo damage bonus goblet, and a crit rate or crit damage circlet. Preferably crit damage if you used either crit rate sets. If you have his weapon with a crit rate set, you should definitely go for a crit damage circlet. You could also go after an Elemental Mastery stance to try to take advantage of his reaction damage, but make sure to still have a cryo damage bonus goblet and a crit circlet. Now looking at substats, you should focus on attack percent, crit rate and crit damage, and Elemental Mastery. Do remember that if you're running an excessive amount of crit rate, make sure your crit damage is still good enough to make a good crit ratio.
Although artifact sets and artifact stats are very important, the next major part of a character's build is their weapon. Wriothesley's best weapon will be his signature weapon, Cashflow Supervision. This weapon has a crit rate main stat of 22.1% and a pretty high base attack. The abilities of this weapon will be stated at Refinement 1. Attack is increased by 16%, and when current HP increases or decreases, normal attack damage will be increased by 16%, and charge attack damage will be increased by 14% for 4 seconds, with a max of 3 stacks. This effect can be triggered once every 0.3 seconds. When the wielder has 3 stacks, attack speed will be increased by 8%. Another 5-star that could even rival his personal weapon is Tula's Remembrance. With a high base attack similar to Cashflow Supervision and a crit damage of 44.1% at level 90, the abilities of this weapon will also be stated at Refinement 1. Normal attack speed is increased by 10%. After the wielder unleashes an elemental skill, normal attack damage will increase by 4.8% every second for 14 seconds. After hitting an opponent with a normal attack during this duration, normal attack damage will be increased by 9.6%. This increase can be triggered once every 0.3 seconds. The maximum normal attack damage increase per single duration of the overall effect is 48%. The effect will be removed when the wielder leaves the field, and using the elemental skill again will also reset all damage buffs. Another 5-star weapon is Nervalet's weapon, Tome of the Eternal Flow. This weapon has a high crit damage main stat of 88.2% at level 90. Like always, the abilities are stated at Refinement 1. HP is increased by 16%, and when current HP increases or decreases, charge attack damage will be increased by 14% for 4 seconds. This also has a max of 3 stacks. This effect can be triggered once every 0.3 seconds. When the character has 3 stacks or a third stack's duration refreshes, 8 energy will be restored to the wielder of this weapon. This energy restoration effect can be triggered once every 12 seconds. The only real buff that is super influential for Wriothesley is the main stat and the charge attack damage increase. The burst is not heavily necessary for Wriothesley's kit, and the HP is not a huge concern either. 5-star weapons like Skyward Atlas and Lost Prayer to the Sacred Winds are also weapons that you could use. Skyward Atlas has an attack percent main stat with increases to elemental damage bonus and an extra attack based on attack. Lost Prayer has a crit rate main stat with increases to movement speed and a better elemental damage bonus buff than Skyward Atlas. There are some other 5-stars that could be forced to help Wriothesley, but these are probably your best bet. Most 4-stars have some sort of use for Wriothesley. The recent 4-stars like Sacrificial Jade, Flowing Purity, and Ballad of the Boundless Blue can be used for Wriothesley due to good stats and abilities. Flowing Purity has a good main stat of attack percent, but its ability has much to be desired. Similarly, Sacrificial Jade has a good crit rate main stat, but its ability helps mainly max HP and some elemental mastery. Solar Pearl is a good weapon with a crit rate main stat and an ability helping normal attack, elemental skill, and elemental burst damage. The Witsith is yet another good crit damage weapon that has a great ability to help attack and elemental damage bonus or elemental mastery. You can also use 4-star elemental mastery weapons if you're running a melt team, but your damage could take a hit if you only focus on elemental mastery on his entire kit. At the end of the day, most weapons have some use for Wriothesley to make use of, but Cashflow Supervision and even Tula's Remembrance will still stay at the top of the list.
Following weapons, we now look at Wriothesley's 6 Constellations. His first constellation will change his first passive talent just a bit. Here's what it says. When Wriothesley's HP is less than 60% or while he is in the chilling penalty state caused by Ice Fang Rush, when the 5th attack of Repelling Fist hits, it will create a Gracious Rebuke. One Gracious Rebuke effect can be obtained every 2.5 seconds. Additionally, Rebuke Vaulting Fist will obtain the following enhancement. The damage bonus gained will be further increased to 200%. When it hits while Wriothesley is in the chilling penalty state, that state's duration is extended by 4 seconds. One such extension can occur per 1 chilling penalty duration. Also do note that you must unlock the first passive talent, There Shall Be a Plea for Justice. His second constellation states that when you use Wriothesley's burst, each Prosecution Edict stack you gain from the second passive will increase the burst damage by 40% for each stack you have when you cast his burst. Again, do note that you must have the second passive talent unlocked to make this happen. The third constellation will increase Wriothesley's normal attack talent by 3, while the 5th constellation will increase his burst talent by 3, both up to a maximum of 15. The fourth constellation increases the self-heal mechanic within Wriothesley's first passive talent from 30% to 50% of his max HP. Also, when Wriothesley receives overflow healing, he will gain a 20% attack speed buff for 4 seconds if he is on the field, and if he is off field, all of the other party members will gain 10% attack speed for 6 seconds. These two ways of gaining attack speed cannot stack. An important thing to distinguish here is that the self-healing mechanic referred to in his first passive talent is not the only way to trigger the attack speed buff. Another healer in your team can actually trigger this for other members in the party, including the healer as well. For example, on-field Barbara may overflow heal off-field Wriothesley, thus triggering the attack speed buff for everyone in the team but Wriothesley. In contrast, if Wriothesley gets healed from another source other than his self-healing and that source of healing overflows, it will likewise trigger the attack speed buff on Wriothesley only if he's the one on field. Now onto the sixth constellation. The crit rate of Rebuke Vaulting Fist will be increased by 10% and its crit damage by 80%. When unleashed, it will also create an additional icicle that deals 100% of Rebuke Vaulting Fist base damage as cryo damage. Damage dealt this way is regarded as charged attack damage. And of course you must have unlocked the first passive talent.
Following constellations, we need to look at teams Wriothesley can fit in. Wriothesley does well with constant reactions due to his constant cryo application nature. Two good teams to run him is a melt team or a freeze team. A good melt team should include Wriothesley, an Anemo Viridescent user, and 2 Pyro characters. A quick melt team we came up with is Wriothesley, Kazuha, Xiangling, and Bennett. Make sure that even though Elemental Mastery is nice on this team, Wriothesley really likes attack and crit still. Making sure to balance a good Elemental Mastery and a good crit ratio will make sure your Wriothesley does extremely well. Now looking at the freeze team. The team should involve Wriothesley, another cryo support with good energy, an Anemo Viridescent character, and a Hydro character. Another way to run this team is Wriothesley with another cryo character and 2 Hydro characters. A team we came up with for the first way is Wriothesley, Shenhe, Kazuha, and Yelan. You could use Diona in place of Shenhe for healing and or Xingqiu for Yelan. Another way for freeze, the double cryo and double Hydro way, is Wriothesley, Shenhe, Yelan, and Xingqiu. You could throw in Diona, Layla, Kaya, Barbara, or even Kokomi in place of some of these supports for Wriothesley. The melt team or freeze teams will probably do best, especially since these are the main 2 reactions for cryo characters. Thank you for watching the video. If you have any extra tips or tricks you know or use with your own Wriothesley, please go ahead and let us know down in the comments. Also, remember to go ahead and check out the Discord if you want to interact with us more. Thank you again, and we'll see you in the next one.